I'm here with Pancho. Thank you for the kisses. You checking what's going on out there? Go check it out. Don't knock my phone over. Alright, got my window open. Pancho is investigating, making sure all is well in our camp. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm going to venture out in a little bit, but I wanted to jump on and do some journaling for today on the Earth Angel Project. So yeah, still craziness. Earth Angel Project, it's part storytelling, part spiritual recovery for me. It's me journaling my own spiritual adventures, my own healing, and also telling this wild and crazy story using current events that are happening. And it's fucking crazy how well the universe is collaborating with me to create this story, because as I've been telling it, I mean, it's based off of real events. So interesting that all the it's just coincided with the Epstein treasure trove of emails. And I think the last 2 weeks I had been talking about this project. I've been working on it for several years. In the last year, I've been recording it, and started off kind of rough. But since then, it's part storytelling, it's part spiritual healing, and it hits a lot of different topics. It's very broad. I mean, it's gone all the way from politics to religions, to just witchcraft and craziness, the evil cabal. But it also talks about connects the dots to what's actually currently happening. And I also utilize my own experience. And one of the things that I had a real hard time addressing was the religion aspect of it, specifically because I was raised in the Mormon church. And I still have family that's in the Mormon church, and they still have my daughter go to the Mormon church, which I have issues with. But anyway, and I really hesitated about digging into that, because if anyone who has been raised in the church or is part of the church understands, like, that is a huge no-no. It's one thing to leave the church, you just do it quietly, but to actually speak out and out against the church. It's not even speaking out against the church, it's telling the fucking truth about the church. You are considered like the worst of the worst. And I used to care about what people thought about me. I don't really give a fuck anymore. It's so awesome to be old, to be 51 and really not give a shit about I wish I was younger. I wish I had learned this at a younger age, but everything happens as it should. Anyway, even at 51, when I started this project, I had no problem calling out the Catholic Church. I had no problem calling out the maggots. I have no problem talking shit about Israel, Zionist. I have no fucking problems about that. But I had to kind of dig into why I was so hesitant about talking about the Mormon church. And I'm not fucking afraid of the church. I'm afraid of everything that I've said about it being true, and how heartbreaking that is. And that people that I love, even though I don't have them in my life anymore, and probably will never, especially after this project goes public, are still a part of a very unhealthy, very, in my opinion, diabolical. Red Bojitos, oh, I love you so much. To start off. And it's crazy because, if you've been a part of the church, if you met Mormons, there are a lot of really good Mormons. They're decent people. Or so you think. And and these decent people who joined this church really thinking that they were part of a chosen group, or, you know, joining the only one true church on earth, have had those intentions, and they've literally been brainwashed. And I know people aren't going to like that word, but it's so fucking true. When you can't even question the prophets, you can't even question the doctrine, you can't even, you know, they call it anti-Mormon literature, and it's not. It's history. It's literally looking at the history of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and the current prophets that are here now. It's just crazy. And another part of the reason I didn't want to touch on it is because as a young teen, you know, I went to my bishop about my uncle who was living in our home, sexually abusing me and my sister. Hey, you look at my armpits. And yeah, nothing was ever done about it. He was told he couldn't take sacrament, but he didn't even fucking go to church anymore anyway. And then when he didn't go to church, he just got excommunicated, which was more than most of what they did to a lot of people in the Mormon church. They actually let their abusers stay, not only stay in the church, but get positions in the church that they had no business being in, because they still interacted. Here, lay down, buddy. Because they still interacted with children, they still, or even people that had been accused of multiple cases, not just one, but multiple cases of sexual abuse towards children. They didn't notify or let their congregation know. It's just, and it's just not one or two cases. It's a lot. And of course, then there's that real extreme where they, you know, the last few weeks I've been covering the satanic abuse, which most people will just say, oh, it's a conspiracy, and, you know, believe what you want to believe. Sometimes truth is, I mean, that's what they said about Epstein, right? That stuff can't be really true. And even in this story that I've been telling, I've tied Israel to it, you know, the worship of Baal, all this stuff, and, you know, Russia, and Melania is an escort, a model escort, and people just think I'm fucking bananas. But it is kind of crazy when you see the emails, and you see how much leverage Epstein had, and how much connections he had to people all over the fucking world. It's not as crazy. It's kind of like those people that, you know, in late 2000s were trying to warn us about Diddy, and all of us said, oh, you're crazy, blah, 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 blah. Turns out the motherfucker is a piece of shit and has been sexually abusing men and women, and we've only just seen a little bit of it. Only a little bit of it, right, Pancho? And now he's drinking toilet wine in prison. He'll be out, they say he'll be out in a few years, but if he survives, I think there are going to be plenty more charges coming at him, as they should. Right, Pancho? So back to the church. So the last few weekends I've been kind of working on the sexual assault, the child abuse, cover-up that the church has participated in. And it's been kind of hard, again, because it does kind of hit close to home. You know, in the 90s, or in the late 80s, early 90s, when that shit was happening to me. They didn't instruct my family to remove the predator out of the house. I mean, I lived in constant fear and torture for years. my teen years, because he was just 2 doors down from my room. And, you know, I may not talk to my sister now, and I may not agree with her. She's still part of the church, and she may not like me being honest about this, but she got the brunt of it. I mean, it became an affair for her. Like, she became obsessive and possessive over him. He started it when he was a teen, but by the time he left, he was absolutely an adult. And he was engaging in a full-flinged, incestuous. And the church knew about it. And my family, my parents knew about it. My aunts and uncles knew about it. And nobody talks about that kind of shit. And now I look at my sister and her life and all her health issues and all of her relationship, you know, how she interacts with her ex, how she interacts with her children. No justification to her being a lying turd sometimes to me, but I see where and how she got that coping skill. So anyway, I shifted gears from the Epstein stuff because, I mean, there's only so many Bubba memes. Oh my God, that is hilarious. I think that is so fucking hilarious. Trump is going through the greatest humiliation ritual, and it is so fucking deserved. You know, how many times has he come, and he's still trying to. He's trying to humiliate MTG, and I'm not a big fan of hers, but hey, kudos to her for standing her ground. Even Lauren Boebert, I'm not a fan of hers either, but I'm proud that she was able to withstand the Situation Room and sign her name to the bill. And Nancy Mace, you know, you will not often hear me complimenting these women, but I will give credit where credit is due. And it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy going up against evil motherfuckers like that. So thank you, ladies. Not that they'll ever watch this, but oh, and I thought Jasmine Crockett was hilarious. She's like, ooh, girl, he don't love you. She posted something to MTG, which is awesome because I know she probably, I'm sure it was in jest, but it was, she's the one that called her butch body, blonde, bleach blonde, butch body. I know I shouldn't be encouraging us to be catty, but they had a little cat fight there for a while. But at the end of the day, when it comes to women being abused by powerful men and children being abused by powerful men, that's one thing we can put aside. Like, I can put aside my beliefs and my thoughts on Nancy Grace, thinking she has superior genes with that flat butt, and Lauren Boebert dressing as a Mexican, being with her boyfriend being the ICE Gestapo. I can look past that and unite in the fact that they are being courageous enough to speak up and speak out about the Epstein files. So we'll see what happens next week. So I wanted to take a break from that, and I shifted gears. And one of my favorite podcasters, Alyssa Grenfell, I posted hers. I just posted on my wall, and I started listening to that, and I was like, oh God, it's like I keep finding myself back on every weekend, back on this Mormon sexual abuse stuff, and I guess there's still stuff I need to heal, because it is a little triggering covering it. But I had seen earlier in the week, and I didn't know how I felt about it. So I just posted recently about reality TV. Kris Jenner, I cannot stand that cunt. I am sorry. I'm not sorry. I think that she is a vile piece of shit, and the fact that she is being celebrated for her 70 years of making trash TV and selling her children, literally, whether it be their porn or letting her 16-year-old date a 23-year-old and have children with rappers or whatever. Not that I have anything against rappers, I'm just saying that she's just a vile piece of shit. I remember watching the Kardashians in the beginning when it wasn't so vile, and seeing Kylie Jenner, you know, and people were laughing at 10 years old playing on the stripper pole. And now she's just trying to look younger than her kids. But anyway, it does make me sad that people like her and Bezos and Trump and those fucking pieces of shit. Oh, and then Elon Musk's father, the audacity to talk about how America will be ruined when white people become the minority. Fuck you. The pedophile of all pedophiles. Like the most vile people on earth, you know, have been given platforms, have been rewarded by just being vile humans is just very disappointing to me. So I decided to shift gear. Megyn Kelly too, fuck you, who has a 13-year-old daughter. Leave her alone with Trump or his little associates. Let her go visit the island and see if you feel the same fucking way about whether they're a child or not. Another thing, it's really hitting hard. You're like 15-year-old. My daughter is 15. She doesn't have a license. She doesn't vote. If any of those men abused my daughter, I would be fucking... I don't understand how people can justify it. It's just so gross. So fucking gross. So, yes, it can be very triggering covering this stuff. And then moving on to, I said, well, I'm going to shift gears from politics and bubble blowjobs. And I saw that this, isn't this crazy how the universe works? I love the universe. But as on point, on schedule, I didn't see this yesterday on my feed because there was so much going on about my Epstein stuff. But Alyssa Grenfield posted, I can't believe Mormons are mocking this show. And it is a show called Surviving Mormonism, or Surviving Mormon, being Mormon. Her name's Heather Gray. And the reason I brought up Kris Jenner too is because she's part of the Housewives of Salt Lake City. And I will say, you know, I used to watch in the early parts of the reality series. Sometimes that was my guilty pleasure. It's gotten so fucking ridiculous, I don't watch any of them. But I remember watching the first season of Salt Lake City because I wanted to see how they would handle, you know, me being raised Mormon and knowing how strict the religion is, you know, how the Mormon church would handle these women being on such a, sorry, but a toxic type of reality show that goes against like pure values in the sense of when it comes to drinking and in comparison to the church values, you know what I mean? Having sex, all these things that is very opposite of what the church is, we're supposed to be doing in the church. And so I watched it, and I'm not gonna lie, I liked Heather the most, not because of what she's doing now, but I felt like she was a little bit more real, and I could connect to her in a sense because I think at that point, like, she had been divorced and she had kids and she was like halfway into the church, but she also had this very like, I don't belong anymore in the church. And I remember feeling that in the church, like, what does the church do with someone like me, a woman that isn't married, that isn't fulfilling her part of the celestial plan, you know? And she wasn't as fake as the others. I'm sure she wasn't, I mean, she's not perfect, but I kind of liked her character a little bit more. And physically, she looked a little more normal than the others that were And I couldn't stand that Shaw one, that fucking fake one, who turned out to be a complete phony and took advantage of so many people and stole their money, but had all these big parties, and her husband was a coach, and oh God, I still can't stand that one. So I stopped watching it after the first season, but I kind of liked Heather Gray. And I remember thinking, she's not going to be a member of the church much longer. And she came from royalty, you know. It's a big deal. I don't know why. In this Mormon church, and now living in Utah, I see it's a big deal where your family came from. And so I'd stopped watching all of, I pretty much cut out all of TV. I've cut out Amazon, I've cut out, the only thing I do is Walmart groceries, because I don't have a car right now, so I have to have my food delivered. But everything else, for the most part, I don't pay for subscriptions. It's actually been pretty cool. So I focused a lot of my time on my creative projects and anyway. And my splurge is my YouTube channel, you know, paying for that subscription so I don't have to look at the stupid commercials, which they used to push Charlie Kirk commercials all the fucking time. I hated that. So Heather Gray apparently did and I remember seeing something about it, about being Mormon, and I kind of was like, oh, weird. How do I feel about this? And surviving Mormonism, and I thought, I hope she does a good job on it. Now, in all fairness, I have not watched the show. I don't have Bravo or any of those channels, so I don't necessarily want to watch it. But I do watch Alyssa Grenfield, and she has an amazing podcast. I would encourage anyone, even if you're not Mormon, you learn a lot about cults, you learn a lot about just people. I think even maggots could, people that have supported the cult of Trump, and coming to realize, like MTG should watch this, like coming to realize that your false prophet is an evil piece of shit and will turn on you even after years of devotion. So that's kind of, the show was pretty interesting, because Alyssa interviews her, and I think it's a 3-part series. Not right now, Pancho. Come here, Pancho. Alyssa interviews her, and turns out she talks a lot about the child sex abuse in the church. And I was like, holy, isn't that crazy how the universe works? Like, I've been covering that for the last few months. I mean, the last year I've been covering the history of the church and the lies of the church, and kind of going into the more fictional part of my story, which is it being part of the evil cabal, and them worshiping a false god and doing baptisms for the dead, and how Joseph Smith literally was a warlock. I mean, he was arrested for treasure digging, or what was it? Like, he did, there's like folkloric rituals. This guy did dark magic. I am not kidding. This is really true stuff, but no one's going to believe me anyway, so I don't care. So I've covered that part of this story. So when the first prophet of the church dabbles in dark magical arts, you gotta kind of wonder about the foundation of the church. You know, fast forward to the 90s and the satanic panic, and the church being totally, I remember my mom buying tapes. There were like cassette tapes about the satanic panic, and it scared the shit out of me. I was a kid growing up in the 80s, and that seemed very real to me, and you had AC/DC and their evil music and all this stuff going on. But the reality was, there's a lot of shit going on in the church at that time. And there's like some real documents of ritualistic abuse, sexual abuse. And it doesn't matter if they're literal. I think anyone raping and abusing children, doesn't matter if you're doing it in robes or not, it's demonic. Whether you believe in the devil or not, you have to be some sort, You have to be missing some part of your soul. Something must have taken over for you to do that. And not just that, but to do that to your kids and offer them up to other people or allow it to happen. So doesn't matter if it's satanic ritual abuse or not. Just to me, any type of abuse is vile and disgusting. So I kind of covered that more crazy part of the novella, where, I mean, there's parts where people talk about things happening in Utah, at the Capitol building, in the temples, children being sacrificed. It's really dark, and I don't like going down that route. But there, whether you believe in that or not, which at first I thought it was just part of the story, but seeing what I see now and what's happening in the world, it wouldn't shock me if it wouldn't shock me that all that is true. But what is true is that there are documented cases, and Heather Gray does a great job of covering that and surviving Mormonism or whatever it is. And the abuse, there's a hotline, I've talked about that, where the bishops, who are non-qualified white men mostly, who are told to call this line. And you would think, you know, when someone comes to them from their congregation, because when you're being sexually abused, you go to the person at church. That's what I did. I should have gone to someone at school, but I didn't know any better. You know, I was raised to go to someone at church. First I went to my mom, and then she said, let's take it to the church. And so then, or even then, she didn't say that. I'm the one that said, I'm going to talk to my bishop about it. And from there, at that point, this was, you know, late 80s, early 90s. I don't think they had the hotline, but eventually, because so much was happening in the Mormon church with sexual abuse, they set up a hotline. And at first, you know, that sounds great, right? Like, to help support these Mormon bishops on how to handle these. You would think it would be set up with a therapist. You think it'd be set up with health services. No. It's a law firm. And they look at where because only bishops can call. These are like the pastors or the people, the head of their congregation. And they look at where they're located and what the laws are around there. And if they didn't have to report it, they wouldn't report it. It was all about covering the church's ass. It was never about protecting the victims. Because if it had been, it would have been, call the cops first, then let us know. Then call us so we can help support you. And it was never that. And don't even get me started on conversion therapy, how cruel they are to same-sex partners and transgenders. And, you know, I have a nephew that is transgender and still goes to church every once in a while to support his crazy mother. It's heartbreaking. So I was listening to that, and I would encourage anyone. I think Heather Gray did a really great job, but it also talks a lot about how much the church worked to hide stuff, and how difficult it is to speak up and speak out against such a, you know, this is, I really admire people like Heather Gray and Alyssa and John DeLay, am I saying his? He was the first apostate, and I remember the first one. This church will not excommunicate pedophiles, but they'll fucking excommunicate people that tell the truth. And that in itself, there's something very fucked up about that. You know, I've listened to so many stories recently of how people have only just tried to get the truth out and have been condemned and have been shunned and have been excommunicated. And I know for some of you people that don't go to church and don't think that's a big deal, it's a big fucking deal when you're a Mormon. When you have totally given your life over to a faith that you really believed was the only true thing, and to go with your inside intuition, your own Holy Spirit inside, knowing that this is fucking wrong, and for the church, who claims to be the only true church on earth, to not only not support you, but ban you for telling the fucking truth. It makes you question everything. You know, this is now atheist. Hey, Pancho. Pancho's like, up in here. I love you, boy. It really fucks with your foundation. I mean, it makes you question everything. So I totally could relate to that. And these women are speaking out. I'm just speaking out on my Facebook page and on my video journals. And I do plan to share this in a more public setting once I finish my project. But get your butt out of my way. You want to come sit with me? You want to come sit here? My handsome, isn't he the most handsome boy ever? He's such a handsome boy. I love you, handsome boy. Thank you. Give me kisses back. Okay. Here. Hey, chihuahuas, buddy. Let me get my blanket. He likes to go under my blankie. Ay. Come on. Need to get a better setup. Ay, chingao. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, Pancho's under the blankie right here. So I really appreciate women like them speaking up. There was also another gentleman that they talk about, and I think he's on episode 2 of Surviving Mormonism. I will probably watch it at some point. I think it'll be a little triggering. It's really weird because it's a lot of the stuff that I've been covering for this project, and for it to come up and to go mainstream, it's just kind of neat how the collective works. Whether you believe in God or not, it's like the universe working all together. And I think that's amazing and beautiful. It certainly is helped me, and my recovery has helped me believe in a higher power. It's something bigger than us, and it's not this false money god that Republicans worship or Democrats worship, or this false worldly god. It's just expanded my mind to so many other possibilities. And it's given me hope that we really literally don't have to live like this anymore. We don't have to live in a world where a false god worships money over the lives of children, that worships silence over the truth. And that's what the Mormon God does. That's what the Catholic God does. That's what the MAGA God does. And that is a fucking false God. And I'm so grateful, even through the pain of my history and of my story. I'm so grateful for it. Because now I can see. Now I'm not devoting my life to a false God. I still got work to do. I want to get my daughter out of that, because she's pretty ingrained in that cult right now, and I don't like it. But, you know, it's part of why I work on this project. So that not just my daughter, but other children don't have to wait till they're 51 years old at spiritual rock bottom and have lost almost everything. What are you doing, Punch? To find their true higher power and the power within themselves. Right, Pancho? Right, Panchitos? He's such a handsome boy. So, yeah, today has been a little intense. And I'm going to probably take a break in a few. I'm going to go take a walk. It's a beautiful day outside. Maybe go to the library. You're going to be okay by yourself? I'll spend all day tomorrow with you, I promise. All day we'll be laying in bed, okay? Maybe we'll go for a walk. He's like, yeah, whatever. All right, so I was going to read something from here, and then I'm going to get going with my day. And the next one is, oh, I think I covered this one already. Yeah, money is a dangerous tool. Funny, that's the money god we were just talking about with Babe Ruth. I talked about that yesterday. All right, this is a good one. This one's called Get Better Every Day. Socrates didn't know much, or as Bill and Ted would say, Socrates. Socrates didn't know much. There wasn't much he held for certain. But he was sure, he said, that we cannot remain as we are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. Nobody is as good as they could be. Nobody is perfect. Everybody can improve. Let me just say something real quick, and then I'm going to get back to this. One of the things that came up in the church is the new prophet Dallin Oaks. Yeah, I did that to the fake prophet of the church. He refuses to apologize. That is not Christ-like. That is not. They refuse to apologize for being a racist piece of shit church, for, not being honest about the origins and the history of their prophets, for misuse of tithing money. They refuse to apologize. Sounds very, no wonder they support Trump. I really can't wait till this fucking church is exposed for the fake. Kind of interesting, yesterday I saw a post that they were finally, giving to food banks. Interesting. After they've been called out, many churches have been called out, while their orange pedophile god is trying to keep SNAP benefits from his constituents. How these churches, there was one lady on the TikTok who called multiple churches with a crying child in the background, and almost all of them, including the fucking Mormon church, wouldn't help her. You know which ones did? I think the only Christian ones were a black church, and I think there was a Muslim and a Jewish, that all she was asking for was 1 can of baby food. Okay, let me get back. Get better every day. Nobody is as good as they could be. Nobody is perfect. Everybody can improve. There are few self-fulfilling prophecies more important or more dangerous than this. Pancho, what the heck, man? What do you want? If you think you have room to grow, you do, and you will. If you think you're as good as you can be, you're right. You won't get any better. It has been said that Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback in history, the youngest and oldest to win a Super Bowl, isn't obsessed with winning. That's not what he focuses on. He's obsessed with improving the accuracy of his touchdown passes in the fourth quarter. He's obsessed with getting a little bit faster at releasing the ball. He's not willing to stay the same, even though the same is very conscientiously the best in the league. The process of getting better, that's his drug. They say the movie Him was about him. That's the dragon he chases. That's how he's able to defy against all expectations, unless he sacrificed his soul or sold his soul to the devil. The Japanese word for this is kaizen, continual improvement. Always finding something to work on, to make a little bit progress on. Never being satisfied, always looking to grow. Revolution, transformation, that's what amateurs chase. The pros are after evolution. The first step is just showing up, committing to doing something each day. Then the next step is finding something to focus on and getting better at each day. And in this, where cumulative improvement meets compounding returns, we can harness one of the most powerful forces on earth. Dude, figure it out. Think about it. Most people don't even show up. Of the people who do, most don't really push themselves. So to show up and be disciplined about daily improvement, you are the rarest of the rare. This is what Garrick's manager said about him. The secret to Garrick's incredible trajectory as an athlete wasn't just his commitment. It was that he never made the same mistake twice. The guy who began his career blowing at least one play, not player. Sorry, I was thinking of Trump and Bubba. Okay, sorry. It was that he never made the same mistake twice. The guy who began his career blowing at least one play per inning, improving to one mistake per game, to one per week, to one per month. To err is human, but to err less each day is to become closer to the divine. We not only hold ourselves to a standard, but we ratchet the standard up as we go. Just as with weight training, what we're lifting should be steadily increasing with each subsequent workout. Our unwillingness to be satisfied with our performance, to be done with our progress, is what keeps us from plateauing. It drives us forward. It is a little discouraging that we never seem to arrive. Is it a little discouraging? Yes. That our standards rise just out of reach of our abilities? Absolutely not. We move the goalposts so that the game doesn't get boring and, more importantly, so it never ends. Ultimately, this brings us more pleasure and more satisfaction. We reach heights we've never been able to see otherwise. Do you want to be rotting or ripening? Are you getting better? Because if you're not, then you're probably getting worse. Anyone, whether they're a professional athlete or a house cleaner, can get better at their job. You can get better at being a person, a citizen, a son, a daughter, a dog owner. You can get better at how you think, how you focus, what you think about. Just as one person delights in improving his farm and another his house, Epictetus would say, rifing as it happens on Socrates, so I delight in attending to my improvement day by day. He said this as a man who clawed his way out of slavery. He said this from exile. He said this as one of the wisest men in the ancient world, and still he was focused on how he could get better every day in every way. One can imagine that for Epictetus, this discipline would have been extremely helpful in those dark times, because it gave him something to focus on, something only he controlled. Not his master, not society, not his station in life, but this discipline is also helpful in good times too, preventing one from getting too cocky or complacent. It doesn't matter what the scoreboard says, or the bank balance, or the sales figure, or the headlines. You know. You know whether you're getting better or worse, whether you're making progress day to day, and if you are, wonderful. If you know there's room for improvement, also wonderful. Either way, your marching orders are the same. Come what may, success or failure, fame or misfortune, a focus on progress lets us look ourselves in the mirror with pride and ignore all the commotion in the background. It is the journey of a lifetime. In fact, the way to think about all of this, how much progress could you make if you made just a little each day over the course of an entire lifetime? What might this journey look like? Where might it lead? If each bit of progress you made presented both the opportunity and the obligation to make a little more progress, and you seize these opportunities, you've lived up to those obligations each and every time. Will you choose to take this journey? Will you continue on even when you've reached further than you ever thought you could go? Or will you just stop there? Are you going to keep practicing? Or have you decided that this is good enough? That you're good enough? Will you remain as you are? Or become what you're capable of? Because once you stop getting better, there's only one direction to go. Do the best you can, the Emperor says in Marguerite Yourcenier's beautiful novel, Memoirs of Hadrian. Do it over again, then still improve, even if ever so slightly those retouches. It's a beautiful irony. You're never content with your progress, and yet you're always content because you're making progress. Oh, I like that. I needed that today. All right, I'm going to read one more and then we're going to wrap it up with my little snoring Frenchie. I love him so much. In 1956, Harry Belafonte placed a call to Coretta Scott King. With her husband arrested once again, he was checking on her and whether the movement might need anything. But the two of them could barely carry on a conversation because Coretta was continually getting pulled away from the phone to attend to one of the children, to take the dinner out of the oven, to answer the door. Sensing she was doing all of this alone, Belafonte politely asked why the Kings did not have any help at home. Well, she told him, Martin simply would not permit it. Such a luxury was a stretch on a minister's salary. They were worried people might judge them. It felt wrong for the Kings to so indulge themselves while millions of black people suffered. That is absolutely ridiculous, Belafonte replied. He's here in the middle of this movement doing all of these things and he's going to get caught up in what people are going to think if he has somebody helping you? Your life is going to change right now, Belafonte told her. He would personally pay for staff, and Martin had absolutely no say in the matter. But this wasn't just a nice gesture to an overworked family. It was also a strategic move. What Belafonte was buying Martin and Coretta was not just help. It was time. It was peace of mind. It was protection. He knew that with help, they would have more energy, more focus for the cause. They're not in fucking survival mode. I get that. They'd be stronger and more effective. The last thing he wanted MLK Jr. to worry about was, as he marched for peace and justice, was whether there was milk in the fridge. It takes discipline not to insist on doing everything yourself, especially when you know how to do many of these things well. Especially when you have high standards about how they should be done. Even if you enjoy doing them, whether that's mowing your lawn, writing your speeches, making your own schedule, or answering your own phone. As Plutarch reminds us, while a leader must know how to do anything, they cannot conceivably do everything. It's not physically possible. It's not mentally possible. Often, the best way to manage the load is to share the load. Oh. Woe is the person who wears themselves out on trivial matters and then, when the big moments come, is out of energy. Woe is the person and the people around them who is so mentally exhausted and strung out because they've taken everything upon themselves that now, when things go wrong, there's no slack or cushion to absorb the additional stress. A glutton isn't just someone who eats or drinks too much. Some of us are also gluttons for punishment. I feel attacked. Gluttons for attention, gluttons for control, gluttons for work. What makes this so tricky to identify, let alone to manage, is that often comes from a good place, as it did for MLK Jr. We feel obligated. We feel bad spending money. We feel guilty asking for help. No matter how well-intentioned, the outcome is the same. We wear ourselves down. We harm ourselves. We harm the cause. We neglect the main thing. We end up depriving the world of progress, of the benefits of what economics call the law of comparative advantage. You have to be able to pass the ball, especially when somebody is open and has a better shot. Right, Pancho? You have to be able to share the minutes with other players, as those Spurs starters, I love that he brings up the Spurs, as those Spurs starters were willing to do, because that's what teams do. The insecure are unable to do this. They fear being criticized. They fear letting people see behind the scenes. Oh, it reminds me of. Tyrants are unable to do this. Egotists are unable to do this too. The cheap are unable to do this. They want it all for themselves. They aren't strong enough to bear being anything but the center, the exclusive, the sole source of achievement. And what happens to most tyrannical regimes, like MAGA? They fail. It doesn't make sense to try to do everything yourself. You have to delegate. You have to find people who are good at things and empower them to help you. You have to be strong enough to hand over the keys to to relinquish control, to develop a system, an organization that is bigger than just us. And find people that aren't just yes men and tell you what you want to fucking hear. If you want to keep the main thing, maybe you need to hire someone who can be a buffer for you. Someone who says no for you. Our willpower is not enough. We shouldn't have to just gut it out. We need to share. That is, if you're trying to scale, trying to build or do something that matters, something bigger than just you. That's why I use all these people on my Earth Angel project and all these different podcasters. They're definitely doing the research and the work for the storytelling. There's a certain amount of privilege in this, sure. Not all of us can afford to hire full-time staff or have a patron willing to pick up the tab. But each of us must know what an hour of our time is worth. We must have the discipline to figure out how best to spend that time and how to invest the fruit it bears. No matter how successful or important you are, we all have tasks that can be automated. We all have legacy tasks that ought to be reassigned. Everything in life is a team sport. You know these inefficiencies exist, and yet you refuse to delegate them. You continue to try to do everyone's job. Stop procrastinating. Delegate. This will not be cheap, and it would be ignorant and arrogant to insist otherwise, but the value is virtually incalculable because it affords you the most expensive thing in the world: time. By compelling MLK Jr. to delegate, Belafonte was giving the man, and by extension, society, more time to do his essential work. Figuratively, we all face a ticking clock, but King's was tragically shorter. Every minute that he and Coretta didn't have to spend on chores at home was time well spent. But also, what of the time they got to spend together? Because delegation just doesn't provide time, but also space, freedom. It allows us to brief, to think, to connect, to appreciate. King was later asked by an interviewer what he would do with an uninterrupted week of rest. Wow. After scoffing at the pure impossibility of such a thing, given the injustices of the world and the demands of the civil rights movement at the time, King explained what he would do. If I had the luxury of an entire week, I would spend it meditating and reading, refreshing myself spiritually and intellectually. Amidst the struggle, amidst the frustrations, amidst the endless work, I often reflect that I am forever giving, never pausing to take in. I feel urgently the need for even an hour of time to get away, to withdraw. I feel urgently the need for even an hour of time to get away, to withdraw, to refuel. I need more time to think through what is being done, to take time from the mechanics of the movement, to reflect on the meaning of the movement. Wow. What would you manage to do with a week like this? With an hour, with a little help that would allow you to carve out some extra time and space for yourself. But not just any kind of time. Time to reflect and think. And not just any kind of space. Space to learn. Space to plan. Together, that little bit of time and space each day combines to form an opportunity to meditate on what is important to us and to examine how we're doing in life. You deserve that. But there's only one way you'll get it. It's by delegating. It's by asking for help. It's by making a change. All right. I really love this book. I love this author. He lives in Bastrop. Ryan Holiday. I want to go to his bookstore sometime. I think I'm actually going to splurge and buy he has a few books. And I love that they're just short stories and they're very empowering. And it's really cool because they almost always tie to whatever I share about the Earth Angel Project and my own personal spiritual journey. So I just think the universe is fucking amazing, and I'm so grateful for my spiritual journey. And I know I sound hokey and goofy saying that, and I'm okay with that, but I wish everyone could get to this point in their life, because no matter what is thrown at you, and trust me, there's a lot of shit thrown at us, especially these days, intentionally. No matter what's thrown at you, it just slides off you, because you know that it's all part of the big plan, that the universe truly, really is working in our favor. And if we would just allow it and trust it and not try and fight it. Like if Trump would just release the fucking Epstein files, yeah, he's going to go down, but that's inevitable. That motherfucker, he's been fighting it for a while, but even in that, he is showing his true colors, and even his most staunch supporters are seeing the light. There was something really interesting. Sabby Sab, she's one of my favorite podcasters, and she posted something on, I'm not a fan of Nick Fuentes, but she posted, again, that's why I'm saying I love this project, because it really opens my eyes and helps me to listen to things I never genuinely wouldn't. And she does the hard work. She actually does the homework, and she posted something about him, and you know, he's talking about the MAGA movement. It's called MAGA is Dead or something like that. And of course it's pissing off people, but she said something really powerful, and I was like, ooh. She was like, you know, the sooner that people start to just accept that you were bamboozled, that you were, and she was like, look, I was where you were at in 2008. And she talks about Obama. And I was kind of like, oh, because, you know, I was drinking the Kool-Aid just like maggots were drinking the Kool-Aid. And I really, really, truly believed in change. And I'm not saying he's a completely evil person. He's nothing like Trump. But, you know, all that change and all that hope, you know, he ended up getting into the office. And still, at the end of the day, there was a lot more change that could have happened. And it was still in the best interest of the politicians and the corporations, and, you know, it was disappointing. And for me to even say that out loud, and for her to bring that point up was pretty powerful. And I mean, I wouldn't even listen to any of the Clinton stuff before, because I was just like, I'm not a QAnon crazy person. But when I started working on this project, I was like, holy shit. There really is a body count. There really is like some really shady shit that happened during that administration. And I get why people are, I understand it more than most maggots would get it. But the sooner you accept that you've been bamboozled not only by a political following, but by a religion. I mean, I've gone through that with just uncovering what's going on in the Mormon church, and that's not fucking fiction, that's real life. And then to tie it to my history, my storyline of being a kid, a teenager, going to my bishop and not being reported, sexual abuse not being reported. It's, you know, as Megyn Kelly would say, I was a young woman, I guess it didn't fucking matter, right? No, I was 10 when it started. Anyway, yeah, this project has really, really stretched me, and I'm really grateful for it. And it's really had me confront my own demons, and it's helped me in many ways either want to drink or stay sober, and I have stayed fucking sober throughout this. I'm really grateful for that. So if anyone is watching, if anyone is paying attention, I wish that spiritual journey for you. Not that I wish anything bad for you, but I'm telling you, coming to terms with the truth is painful, but it's also very liberating. So that being said, I'm gonna head out for the day. Maybe I'll come back later. I'm gonna be working on the project all this weekend. I'm not working this weekend. I'm actually chilling. So I hope you are having a wonderful weekend, and I love you, and I'll see you later. Bye.